This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and beautiful supermodels will come to your house, have kinky sex with each other, and let you watch. It's come to my attention that Smokey from Off the Rope Show didn't much care for some of the comments I made during my British Fist Slammy Award acceptance speech. Well, Smokey, I didn't much care for your comments when you said that you thought I was the leader of the Aces and Eights. Bet you thought I was just going to let that go, huh? Well, guess again. Now, I bear Schleg Daddy no ill will. In fact, I got a lot of respect for Schleg Daddy. But, Smokey, if you're waiting for some kind of apology from me for what I said, keep waiting. Bitch. And now on to Impact. You know what? Fuck it. This episode did practically nothing to get me hyped for Genesis. In fact, looking at the Genesis card, I think it looks pretty damn underwhelming. But I liked this. A lot of that was due to me just throwing up my hands and saying, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm just gonna roll with it and see where it goes. But still, I got a kick out of some of this. Not all of it, but some of it. The opener was all about the Aces and Eights, so as you can imagine, it wasn't very interesting. Sting, Angle, and Joe come out and try their damnedest to get the audience excited about this storyline, but they were fighting a losing battle and we all know it. The Aces and Eights mean nothing anymore, and Sting being all psyched up to be back and to take them out now just seems kind of silly and unnecessary. Sting, no offense, but TNA really doesn't need your help to take out these losers. But if you can expedite this process in any way, I think we'd all appreciate that, so sure, go nuts. So they call out Anderson to get to the bottom of his supposed involvement in this job squad, as well as why he didn't help the Faces fight them last week, as if they really needed his help. And Anderson explains that before Bound for Glory, he was ready to stand beside Sting to fight these guys, but then they beat the shit out of him, and Sting didn't lift a finger to help him. And to be fair, that's actually a really good point. I mean, I sure as hell wouldn't be chomping at the bit to help out Sting after that if it had been me. So I can sort of understand Anderson's position here. Maybe for him, it's not so much about siding with the Aces and Eights as it is about siding against a man who didn't have his back. This was a decent opener, I just didn't care about it. Anything involving the Aces and Eights storyline at this point, I really can't take seriously. I have to struggle just to pay attention. This angle is going absolutely nowhere, and throwing Anderson in there doesn't change that. So the promos were all right here. I just had no interest in what they were saying. Zema Ion versus Kenny King in the X Division tournament. Ion did not get his entrance shown. And if you didn't know who the winner was going to be at that point, then you've probably never seen a wrestling show before. Good match for the brief time it got. I'm very happy to see Kenny King's push continue, and hopefully he will beat Christian York at Genesis. Because I believe 100% that Kenny King is the next Austin Aries, meaning that he's the next guy who's going to use the X Division as a launching pad to propel him to bigger things in the company. So I want to see him win this thing, and I want to see him take that title from Bob Van Dam. Yes! Holy crap, what the hell happened here? Tara and Jesse Goddard versus Tessmacher and Rob Terry. Robbie E. wanted to team with Tessmacher, but she would have none of it. She wouldn't be caught dead teaming with that loser, and she said exactly that, and it was fantastic. That's just one of the reasons why Tessmacher is my favorite knockout right now. But she agrees to the match if she can team with Rob Terry instead. And dude, if you're getting rejected in favor of a Gomer like Rob Terry, give up. just give up.
Yet again, I am standing before another ignoramus.
The match was mercifully short, which, given the two men involved, was definitely for the best. It was really just an excuse to get us to the post-match stuff, and this is the part that blew my mind. Rob Terry starts doing his weird bro dance again, like he did in that asinine bro-off segment.
Somebody call my mama.
And I really didn't care. I was just counting the minutes, waiting for it to be over. But then Tessmacher started dancing with him, and I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth, but it stopped sucking. I don't know how this happened, but somehow, someway, the sheer randomness and absurdity of the whole thing combined in such a way that made it watchable. Rob Terry actually did something here that wasn't a complete waste of time. I think Tessmacher playing along helped a lot with that because the crowd does like her. Robbie E. was ridiculously over the top, just mugging like a jackass watching this. Forget about that clown. But what Terry and Tessmacher did here, I have no explanation for it, but somehow it just worked. It got over, and I didn't hate it. It looks like they're taking a Great Khali route with Rob Terry now. It's like everyone knows he sucks as a wrestler, and nothing's going to change that. So instead of pushing him seriously, they're repackaging him as like a lighter, comedic, fun-loving type of character. It's not going to help his match quality, but it might help him get over. So that's something, I guess. Okay, they made some changes to Gut Check. It's not an indie wrestler versus a member of the roster anymore. Now it's two indie wrestlers competing against each other. And I like this. You can evaluate twice as much talent that way. Plus, you won't have to have a potential new star spending his first match on Impact getting jobbed out in 3 minutes. So I think this is definitely a change for the better. So we got Jay Bradley versus Brian Cage, neither of whom I'm that familiar with. The match was pretty short, and there really wasn't a whole lot to it, if I'm being honest. But from what little they had a chance to show, Jay Bradley seems to have more of a presence, a little more of a personality, and his interview was better too. So if I had to pick one of these guys, I'd go with him. Hell yeah, Joseph Park is back in the Impact Zone.
Yes! 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 Yes!
So now that he's been trained as a wrestler, he wants a crack at the Aces and Eights. And of course, Hogan is reluctant to give him one, which, again, I don't understand. And Hogan's given Joseph matches before, against Bully freaking Ray, who was and is infinitely more dangerous than those chumps could even hope to be at this point. So Hogan beating around the bush now just seems dumb. But Joseph wears him down, and he gets the match he wants. And if there's one character out there that can make me interested in a match involving the Aces and Eights, it's Joseph Park. By the way, does anyone else find it funny that Joseph was able to get to the roster after training for 1 month, while Alex Silva, Sam Shaw, and Taylor Hendricks are still down in OVW? That, people, is the awesomeness that is Joseph Park. Then Brooke Hogan came out, which was strange because I'm pretty sure Hogan suspended her last week, and oddly enough, not a single mention was made of this. I don't know. Plot hole! She wants Hogan to reinstate her fuck buddy Bully Ray, and he's adamantly refusing, and good grief, this was bad. Up until this point, Brooke's role in TNA had been relatively harmless, but that's because we'd only been seeing her in small doses. But when you put her in a prominent spot, you start to see why they hadn't been doing much with her until now. She was really awkward on the mic, she couldn't emote very well at all, it seemed like she was struggling to remember her lines. This did not make for good TV. And I don't see why Bully Ray even needs to be reinstated. And Brooke is still technically suspended, but that didn't stop her from showing up and getting on TV and cutting an in-ring promo. Was Brooke even suspended last week, or was it just Bully Ray? I could have sworn it was both of them, but now I'm not really sure. Sadly, I don't really care either.
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
Jeff Hardy and James Storm versus Austin Aries and Bobby Roode, aka the Wet Dream Team. That is made of fucking win. This match came after a backstage segment with Aries and Roode that was so entertaining that for a minute it made me want them to be the tag team champions, just so we could get a lot more segments like this. The match is really good. Of course, you got Aries and Roode not getting along, trying to one-up each other, which makes for some entertaining moments. Bad Influence get involved and attack Storm, Aries nails Hardy with the belt, and him and Roode lay Hardy out. So the heels get some heat here, which they really needed, badly, because TNA has been protecting Hardy a lot more than they need to lately, and they managed to push 2 pay-per-view matches in this segment. That's good. I just wish this had been the main event. The world title feud feels like a mid-card feud right now. It's still playing second fiddle to the Aces and Eights, but the Aces and Eights have been booked like such huge jobbers that anyone playing second fiddle to them, much less the guys feuding over the freaking world title, is just ludicrous. At this point, the Aces and Eights should be nothing more than curtain jerkers. They don't belong anywhere near a main event segment anymore.
You guys suck.
Since Mike Knox lost his mask last week, he's being punished, and the vice president of the Aces and Eights says that he has to prove himself if he wants to earn his way back into the group like Doc did. You know, I shouldn't have to point out the obvious here, but Devon was the first member of the Aces and Eights to lose his mask, and yet he was never punished like Doc was, and now like Knox is. It kind of seems like the Aces and Eights are just pulling these rules out of their ass as they go along. I'm just saying.
This whole show is ridiculous!
The main event is supposed to be Angle versus Anderson, but the match never happens. Knox just jumps into the ring, hits Angle with a hammer, in what was probably the most anticlimactic way they could have possibly staged this, and then Sting comes out, challenges Knox to a match, and squashes him in like 3 minutes. And you know what? It's a testament to how weak this faction has been made to look that Knox getting buried by a 53-year-old man made perfect sense. So they tried to do something to make Knox look dangerous, and then they immediately took it back, like, no, he's still a jobber, we were just messing with you.
Of all the greats I have studied, I assure you I have never heard of that man.
I don't blame you, Damien. I really don't. I don't get Mike Knox either. I never saw any real talent in this guy. He just seems like a big waste of time to me. I already like Jay Bradley way more than him. The match is, quite frankly, not very good at all. I don't think Knox is bringing anything to the table. And just when you think it couldn't possibly get more embarrassing for the Aces and Eights, the rest of them show up with Brooke Hogan as a hostage, threatening her with grievous bodily harm if Sting doesn't lay off Knox. And then the suspended Bully Ray appears, effortlessly fights off the Aces and Eights single-handedly, and saves Brooke just like that. Aces and Eights, you guys are done. You're just done.
I mean, after all this, you try so hard to convince people that you're a legitimate threat.
Look at me. It's not going to work. Pitiful doesn't even come close to summing these guys up at this point. They can't do anything right. The Aces and Eights are a fucking joke. They are jobbers. Utterly pathetic, go-nowhere jobbers. Why in the name of God are we still devoting so much time to these incompetent losers?
But don't boo me. You should be booing yourselves.
Then Hogan comes out, and you'd think he'd be grateful to Bully Ray for saving his daughter's life. But no, he's still as irrational as ever, because apparently he just can't get past that time he walked in on Bully Ray and Brooke doing it Froggy style on the office copy machine. And he makes it clear to Bully Ray that he will not now, nor will he ever, be the right man for his daughter.
Oh, what a bunch of bull.
Hogan, let's just address the pink elephant in the room, okay? Your daughter is a grown woman, a legal adult. if she wants to date Bully Ray, if she wants to fuck Bully Ray, if she wants to do all manner of perverted erotic shit with Bully Ray, if she wants to act out scenes from 50 Shades of Goddamn Grey with Bully Ray, she doesn't need your fucking permission, you belligerent asshat!
You're nothing but a selfish prick!
Then Bully decided, screw what Hogan thinks, and he asked Brooke to marry him. So, yeah. That happened. So the wedding is next week, and considering the amount of time they devoted to setting this up, I have to assume that this is going to be a really big angle. Maybe they'll have Hogan finally give them his blessing, only to have Bully marry Brooke and then reveal himself to be in league with the Aces and Eights. That seems like the most obvious route. Hopefully they've got something less predictable up their sleeve than that. Under any other circumstances, I would probably hate this. I don't like wedding angles in general. I think they're stupid and cheesy. But screw it. I'm going to play along. Because I think this is going to tie into the Aces and Eights somehow. And both these storylines have become, let's be honest, really fucking stupid and cheesy. And I had to admit that. I had to emotionally divorce myself from my desire to take these angles even remotely seriously. It can't be done. And I had to accept that. And now that I think I have, I should be able to watch this wedding angle next week and not get pissed off at how stupid it is, because I have no expectations for it anymore. So if it's the dumbest thing ever, it won't bother me. So I'm going to watch the wedding of Bully Ray and Brooke Hogan next week. I'm going to try to enjoy it like I would enjoy watching a bad B movie. And I'm sure it'll be really stupid and really cheesy. And if I'm brutally honest with myself, it'll probably pop the rating. So that was Impact. Believe it or not, I actually had fun with this show, just because of the sheer absurdity of a lot of it. You take it on its own, it was pretty enjoyable. Having said that, as a go-home show, it was a complete failure. This did virtually nothing to get me hyped for Genesis. In fact, the main angle of the show was devoted to hyping up something for next week's Impact that had nothing to do with Genesis. Bully Ray isn't even on the damn card. And I am flabbergasted that when TNA have just completely changed their whole pay-per-view model and cut down to 4 main shows a year, that they somehow still managed to throw Genesis under the bus. They're only doing 4 big pay-per-views a year now, and the first one out of the gate feels like filler. How do you do that?
Fail! You fail! How do you screw this up?
Try to have fun with Genesis if you can. Frankly, I think the card, which they waited until the last minute to announce, by the way, is rather lackluster, and the hype has been pretty half-assed, all things considered. And personally, I didn't even know Genesis was this Sunday. That's what this all amounted to. Until next week, guys. I'm out.
You got sloppy, dickless. There's a trail here. It leads to something. But what?